All right, now let us begin. Sorry for the interruption. Actually, we were just discussing the characteristics of nonverbal communication and how nonverbal communication is culture bound. So I'm sorry for the interruption, but let us once again begin with the characteristics just to maintain the continuation. So we were discussing nonverbal communication, world beyond words, and we discussed the meaning of what is nonverbal communication and why it is important. Now, then we started with the characteristics of a nonverbal communication. So I'm just going to read. All right. So the first characteristic of nonverbal communication, it cannot be avoided. Second, excuse me, it may be intentional or unintentional. Nonverbal cues are often ambiguous. Nonverbal cues are continuous. Nonverbal communication blends with speech, and nonverbal cues are culture bound. So this is what we discussed already. Then we saw this example of some of the symbols and its meaning, how it differs, and then we were supposed to begin from here. So I'm just going to quickly read it. I hope you got the time to read it as well. So nonverbal communication across the world. Nonverbal communication differs all around the world. This section will give you an idea about the differences in nonverbal communication across various countries. Japan. Japan rely on facial expression, tone of voice and posture to tell them what someone feels. Frowning while someone is speaking is interpreted as a sign of disagreement. So you cannot frown. It's so obvious to frown, when somebody is just saying and you feel that, oh, like that happened. But it is considered as a sign of disagreement in Japan. It is considered disrespectful to stare into another person's eyes, particularly those of a person who is senior to you because of age or status. Nonverbal communication is so vital that there is a book for gaijins, means foreigners, on how to interpret the signs, because in Japan nonverbal communication is very important. That's why they have this book also, especially talking about the signs for the outsiders also. Because if you're going for a business, for a business trip to Japan, or if you are just going to go there for work, it's very essential that you know what these sign means. Next one is Hungary. So Hungarians are almost always less direct than Americans and depend on nuances of meaning in many cases. It is considered rude to speak to someone with your hands in your pocket and gum in your mouth. So it's considered as rude. Then next, the Middle East, business and personal friendships are one and the same, and Arabs generally prefer to do business with people they know and like. The best way to communicate is always face to face. If this is not possible, make a phone call. The written word is considered less personal and less important. So, this is about the non-verbal communication across the world. Now, it's this is just one glimpse. There is there's a lot of, share some more examples so you'll understand the importance of non-verbal communication, like when it differs, how it's culture bound, and why it is very important to learn all these things, because we are studying the subject of business communication. That's why it's important that you know that something like this exists and pay attention to it. All right, now we're going to talk about the forms of nonverbal communication. So what are the forms of nonverbal communication? So basically, the forms are divided into three categories. One is called conscious nonverbal communication. See, when sender and receiver are aware of sending and receiving the message and the general meaning attached to it, it is called conscious nonverbal communication, right? Nonverbal communication, why we have to pay attention? Because uh, the sender and receiver might place different meanings to it. So then it will be a problem, right? If sender is, for example, we just saw in the previous slide how it differs from one culture to another culture. So sender means something else, like you're showing one expression which means something for you, but for receiver it means something else. Then it becomes dangerous, which is not a case in verbal communication, because if you are communicating in a common language, at least both the parties know what that means. But in non-verbal communication, both of you should be aware. So when you're consciously doing something, when sender is acting in a particular way and the receiver is also understanding the same thing, then it is called conscious non-verbal communication. For example, hug indicating the affection, right? If you hug somebody, you're consciously doing it because you want to show affection to somebody. So that is called conscious non-verbal communication. Second one is subliminal non-verbal communication. So when messages are communicated to the subconscious mind of the receiver, then it's called subliminal. For example, gut reactions. For example, police and military uniforms. For example, well dressed executive or young people in advertising. So, all these things mean something, right? It goes to your subconscious mind and you understand without saying anything that, oh, that means this. See, when you see somebody wearing a uniform, then what message you get, right? As a receiver, you feel like, okay, there is some kind of discipline, some rules over here, and there is a person standing in a uniform. So without uttering anything, you will at least understand what that means. Like likewise, if you see a security guard, let's say, security guard is not going to say anything to you, but if you just look at the uniform, you can make out that, okay, this place is secure, okay, there's a guard over here guarding the place, and this place is secure. Likewise, young people in ads. So people obviously prefers young crowd to be part of the advertisement, because you want to attract young people. So if it is like that, then automatically you can understand what it means, right? That it is to attract more and more youngsters towards the usage of that particular product or service. So all these things are called subliminal nonverbal communication, wherein you don't say anything, but whatever messages are communicated, it goes to the subconscious mind of the receiver, and that's how they understand it. The next one is voluntary or involuntary. Some communication nonverbal cues are voluntary in nature, you're voluntarily giving it. Some are involuntary in nature, like you have to forcefully do it, right? So that is called voluntary or involuntary. Okay, let's see one example. Mm, James Vicare was the first to use a subliminal message in an advertisement in 1957. His goal was to make people want popcorn and coke by flashing "eat popcorn and drink coke" briefly on screens during the movies. So here we are talking about the movies and how he wanted that "eat popcorn and drink coke" should be on the screen. He claimed that popcorn sales rose by 57.5% and coke sales by 18.1%. The uh, subliminal slogans have come a long way since then. One of the best known examples of subliminal advertising slogans is Nike's "Just Do It." So this slogan could mean different thing to different people depending on their personal experience or culture background. To a cricketer, it could mean that just going out to the field and making a century. Like, what does it mean? To a cricketer, it means just go out to the field and make a century. Or to a teenager, on the other hand, it could mean do what you feel like doing, even if it means breaking some rules. Closer Home Biscuit Company into Closer Home Britannia uh, revamped its essential image of a business company into a healthy eating processed food company through its now famous Eat Healthy, Think Better slogan. Similarly, Bharat Petroleum Company Limited, a major retail arm of the industry, projects its image under the banner Pure for Sure as its various fuel pumps around the country. So, of course, around the country, there are like a lot of fuel pumps who are selling Bharat Petroleum. So, these are the examples of subliminal nonverbal communication. So I hope you understand how these signs that we see, how it actually impacts people, and it brings major difference when we are talking about the sales. Like, just do it, pure for sure, right? Pure for sure. Just that symbol, how it worked for Bharat Petroleum. It's like, it's trying to create an image in the mind of the people that, yeah, pure for sure, and it helped increase the sale for the company. Or let's say Britannia, Eat Healthy, Think Better. So all these things are very impactful, that without even talking, just looking at the colors, just looking at the symbol, yeah, we just remember. Nike, just do it, we just remember, like, yeah, just do it. So it acts as some kind of enforcement. So this is how non-verbal communication works. Now let me take you through the important part of the chapter, that is types of nonverbal communication. So basically there are 7 types of nonverbal communication, and as I told you, it's very interesting. You will be enjoying it. First one is kinesics. That is kinesics. So kinesics is all about body language. When we are talking about the posture, we are talking about gestures, we are talking about facial expressions. So first type of nonverbal communication, which is obviously used the most, is kinesics. Second one is oculesics. Oculesics is about eye contact, me trying to make the eye contact. So eye contact is also very important. So how, when you're trying to avoid eye contact, that also means something. For example, let's say that a person is just not confident, or a person has done something wrong, and that's why you're not able to maintain the eye contact. So these are the things which we hear, right? In fact, you observe now, are you able to maintain eye contact with everybody? Some people are hesitant in maintaining eye contact with the opposite gender, or some people are hesitant in maintaining eye contact with the elders. That we don't look into the eyes of our elders when somebody is angry, right? So there are different ways, different meanings attached to it. We will discuss. Actually, we are going to discuss all these things very much in detail, and I will be showing you a lot of examples to understand what all these things mean, when we are talking about non-verbal communication. So that is oculesics. Third one is haptics. What is haptics? So haptics is about touch. When you just touch something, or when you just touch somebody, it also has different types of meanings. So we will be learning entirely about that. Next one is proxemics. So proxemics is about space. How you maintain space, distance also. So let's say that if you are in a public setup, then there will be a lot of space between you and the audience, because that's public, right? You want to maintain some distance and some space. But if you're with your family members, you don't have to maintain distance. They can come close to you and also interact, right? So, or if you're close to your loved ones, there will be very little space. So space itself talks about what kind of relationship you are having with other person. So that is also a way of communication. That is one way of non-verbal communication. Again, I'll show you some examples. Next one is your appearance and artifacts. Your appearance, without saying anything, like if you just see a person who is well dressed and is driving a Porsche, then obviously you can make out that person has a lot of money, is rich, right? Or anybody who's driving a nice car, a person you see just getting out of the car, and well dressed person, you can make out that a person is educated, a person is rich, a person is disciplined. All these things you can easily make out, right? If you see somebody wearing a uniform, right, you can easily make out what that uniform stands for. So that is also one way of nonverbal communication. Next one, which is forming an important part of your communication, is your voice, which is called paralinguistics, or it's called paralanguage, right? It is about the way you talk, the way you speak. So that is about paralanguage. We've already discussed this thing that when we are communicating, the verbal communication contributes 7%, non-verbal contributes 55%, and the remaining one, 33%, is contributed by the paralanguage. Means paralinguistic features, everything about your voice, that is also non-verbal communication, how you speak. Again, we will be discussing that in detail. And last one is chronemics, that is about time. So, what is chronemics and what is about time? Um, about time means, even time is going to talk about you. Let's say that you are coming home late at night because you are just outside partying with your friends. So that is also going to talk something about you, right? So time is also one of the non-verbal communication. You don't have to go and tell people about anything that you do. If you have the habit of getting up, let's say at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning, 12 o'clock is obviously noon, but it's going to talk something about you, that what kind of person you are not at all disciplined in life, right? Or you don't care about the world, or maybe you have no work, otherwise you'll never sleep. So chronemics means time is also talking about you. So these are the types of non-verbal communication. Now we are going to discuss all of them in detail. Before that, we will just see a small clip.
Hello, my name is James Ham, and I will be informing you of the many nonverbal communications displayed in Pixar's short film, For the Birds. If you are not familiar with this film, For the Birds is about a group of stuck-up birds that outcast an awkward, uncoordinated bird. As the story begins, you see a bird fly and land on a wire. Let's call him Bird A for this scene. As the second bird enters the scene, which will be Bird B, he lands very close to Bird A. This is proxemics, the use of physical space. This will be the first code of nonverbal communication that we will discuss. Due to the lack of space, we see Bird A's unhappy reaction. Not only did Bird B land extremely close to Bird A, which invaded his personal space, but also spread his wings, which invaded his territory. Also notice that these birds are identical, which leads us to our next nonverbal code, physical appearance. As we observe these birds, all of them are pretty identical, except for one, this bird here. He is tall, lanky, uncoordinated, and goofy looking.
Hi.
According to page 236 in Nonverbal Communication, physical appearance is the visual attributes like hair, body type, and other physical features that either make you attractive or unattractive. It is obvious here that he is considered unattractive because of these features. Immediately, they take advantage of this and begin to mock him. As the awkward bird gets their attention again, we notice a change in their facial expressions. On page 225, it states that a person's character is clearly written on their face. Facial expressions are our next nonverbal code, as they are clearly expressed here. They are all startled and express different emotions, as we can see: shocked, angered, nonchalant, and worried. You can tell by the angle of their eyebrows how they feel. As they scamper down the wire away from him, they clearly have facial expressions of annoyance and disgust. Skipping ahead a little, let's look at this chubby guy here. Throughout this scene, his eyes are slanted, which shows anger. I love how Pixar put in little details like this to show us his character. If we take a look at his beak, we'll see that it has a lot of scratches, which shows he uses it a lot, especially compared to the beaks of other birds. In this clip, you can see the difference between his beak and the beak of another bird. As two birds begin to hammer on the toes of the outcast, one bird begins to chirp as if he's chanting, which gets everyone to join him. This shows that he is using vocalics to demonstrate his power to influence the others to join in. This is a form of kinesics and vocalics. His initial chirps are loud and have a steady speech rate to provoke others to join in. He also uses his eyes to signal others. As he becomes aware of the environment,
he changes his chirps to a louder and higher pitch. The speech rate also speeds up.
In doing this, he exerts a dominance over the birds to get their attention to help stop the hammering of the middle two birds. In my personal life, I can use nonverbal communication to improve my relationships with others. I can start with my girlfriend's family. My girlfriend is half Portuguese, and her family likes to greet with kisses and also likes to communicate closely with one another. When I was first introduced to this, I thought it was a little awkward and I felt they were invading my personal space. Now with understanding, I realized that it's in their culture. If I open my mind to it and realize that they mean no harm, I can strengthen our relationship. I'm also aware that backing up could be disrespectful. In my professional life, I can apply these codes to not judging people off of physical appearance. For instance, if I go in for a job interview, instead of judging my potential boss and thinking he's a nerd because of the way he dresses or because of artifacts like glasses, I should listen to him and get to know his personality. Also, by being aware of my own body, I can send the message that I am confident and.
Alright, so see, I hope you liked the video. So here we saw how birds were trying to communicate and how their appearance and the size and everything matters. So this is just on a lighter note, but it was nicely explained about kinesics and other types of nonverbal communication. So with this, let us begin the types of nonverbal communication. The first one we are going to discuss is kinesics. So what is that? All right. Kinesics is articulation of the body or movement resulting from muscular and skeletal shift. So articulation of the body means the way it is articulated, it is shown, means the body movement resulting from muscular and skeletal shift. So your muscles are moving or your skeleton is moving, whatever is moving, right? The articulation of the body movement resulting from muscular and skeleton shift means it's naturally happening, right? Your hands, the gestures, right? It is some muscular movement which are happening. So kinesics is all about that. What does it include? So it includes your facial expression, it includes posture, it includes gesture. So when we are talking about kinesics, it includes three things. One is facial expression, second one is your posture, and third one is your gestures, right? So three things are included: facial expression, posture, and gestures. Now we will be discussing each of them in detail. Now see, these are just the pictures of, do you know what you're saying? Like all these things, just look at the symbol, just look at those expressions, just look at those eyes, right? They all mean something. Even if you're standing like this, the way that person is standing, right, with the folding hands, then also it means something. How does your body speak? Like any spoken language, body language has words, sentences, and punctuations. Why do we call them body language? Because it is body's language. By your gestures you communicate something, by your postures you communicate something, by your facial expression you communicate something. That's why we call them, it's a body language. So like any spoken language, body language has words, sentences, and punctuation, and each gesture is like a single word, and one word may have several different meanings. So every gesture is like a word, and every word again has different meanings. So this is also culture bound. Let's say that if you're standing with your arms folded, so then it means different things in different cultures. If you're waving your hand, let's say you're saying bye to somebody, so again it means different in different cultures. So just like you have to be, like we discussed last time, that nonverbal communication is culture bound. Any kind of symbols, any kind of gestures you show, it means it has several different meanings. So it is very important to know the meaning wherever you are and act accordingly. It is very, very important. Now, what about the facial expressions? Let's see what is facial expression. See, this is considered as one of the most powerful and obsessed nonverbal communication. Often expressions of joy and happiness or sorrow and grief are reflected through your eyes. So facial expression, yeah, it's definitely one of the most important type of nonverbal communication. Why? Because I told you last time also that face is the first thing that is visible to somebody. Even if you are sad and you don't act like you are sad, or you tell people that yeah, no, I'm okay, I'm fine, I'm happy, but your face will automatically show that you are sad, right? So any kind of expression, whether it is joy, whether it is happiness, whether it is sorrow, whether it's grief, they are all reflected through your eyes, through your face. Face provides information about communicators' thought process, right? You can also make out what a person is thinking. Right? If a person is just sitting and not talking anybody and is silent and is just looking at one direction, then definitely that person is thinking something, right? So you can make out about the communicator's thought process. And there are few people who can control emotions, so very few people will be able to control their emotions. People mostly cannot control their emotions. I mean, it's like whatever you're feeling, that will be reflected on your face. If you're happy, then that smile will come on your face. You will not be able to fake it out. Or if you are upset, if you're unhappy, and if you are just not smiling, you're just trying to control your smile, still you will be able to make out that you're happy. And at the same time, if you're upset, if you're not happy, and you try and smile, if you just try and fake your smile, people can make out that it is not the real one. So there are very few people who can actually control their emotions. Otherwise, you will not be able to control your emotions. Even just look at the babies. Like, there are some pictures of babies over here. Just look at the face, right? These babies also are expressing it in different way. They are also showing different facial expressions. So it is very interesting actually to learn this thing, about how it means, what it means. Next one, check this out. So there is this research which was done by this person, Bird Whistle, in 1970, and according to him, he says that the human face is capable of conveying 250,000 expressions. Means there is a lot of movement which happens, when your facial expression changes from one feeling to another feeling. Look at this one person only, right? And how his facial expression has changed, like different face, different meaning, right? So that means that 250,000 is a big number. But you know, all of us go through so many changes in our facial expression. Some people train themselves. If you, for example, if you want to laugh, you need to really open your mouth wide and your cheeks, right? There should be some apples forming here on your cheeks. That means you are laughing, your mouth is wide open. Everybody cannot do that. Like आपको खुल के हंसना है लेकिन आप हंस नहीं पा रहे हो, आपके फेस पे दिखता नहीं है, because you don't know um, that you need to practice it also, right? So that's why if you do it, you will be able to express yourself clearly. Your facial expressions will be visible, they will be prominent. So that's why it is important to even practice that thing. These are just the facial expressions for your reference. See, so many interesting expressions. When you actually look at it, we never pay attention to this thing, but when you actually look at it, you will realize that, oh, all these expressions, they mean something. They are communicating something. What kind of happiness a person is feeling, what kind of feelings, what kind of emotions, everything is expressed through eyes and through face. Alright, now moving ahead, let us see one small clip about the facial expressions. You like it?
New Chef Boyardee whole grain beef faroni. The taste kit.
So this is just an ad, but look the way it was made, how interesting, right? Everybody is trying to communicate, everybody is trying to understand what that means. Alright, now what are the types of facial expressions? Now there are some types of facial expressions. So they are actually infinite in variety, there are like number of expressions that are infinite, very different. First thing is neutral expression. One is very neutral. So when we are talking about neutral expression, means it can be a feeling of pleasure, it can be a thought, some thoughtful, you being thoughtful, it's a feeling of respect, quiet attention, quiet attention. So these are all neutral expressions, very normal expressions. Then some can be relaxed expressions, like when you're into love, or it is a pleasure or submission, that means relaxed, your face will be like relaxed, those expressions will be very much relaxed. Some can be tensed expressions, because of fear, because of surprise, because of contempt, because of determination, right? There can be some expressions which are tensed, so that will be visible on your face. Some are called uplifted expression, very happy, or means extreme expression, happiness or sadness, but extreme expression. For example, happiness, for example, anxiety, Some can be astonishment, you're surprised. Then love, attention. So some expressions can be uplifted expression like happiness, anxiety, astonishment. You're astonished, you're surprised. You love, attention. So some can be uplifted. Some can be droopy, एकदम sad, बिल्कुल distress, suffering, shock. तो एकदम droopy expressions हो जाते हैं. So these are all the different types of facial expressions. See, look at this. One face is showing so many different expressions. One in the center is happiness. This is real happiness. Then right side पे, first left side पे देखते हैं. Contempt, right? It's a feeling of contempt. Next one, sad. Next one, disgust. This side, first thing is anger, then fear, then surprise. So many different expressions. All right, can I move? See, this is what I was talking about when we were discussing about 250,000 expressions. So how does expressions change? This is called morphed continua of 6 expressions. This is how person's face changes from one feeling to another feeling, from one expression to another expression. Like, let's say, from happiness to surprise. See, look at the first one. A person is happy, and look at the last phase. It's surprised, right? So from one to last, from one to fifth one, how a person's face changes from happiness to surprise. See, the whole thing is changing. A person's face is passing through so many different expressions. You don't know, right? Let's say that you're happy. Try and be happy. Show a happy facial expression. And then suddenly show that surprise thing. So from happiness to that surprise facial expression, your face is changing so many times, right? You pass through different kind of expressions to reach to that one feeling which you felt. Second is from surprise to fear. Surprise to fear. Then from fear to being sad. Just see, from fear to being sad. Third one, you're fearful and now you're going to be sad. And from sad you went to the feeling of disgust. You're sad and now your face is completely changed. Your permanent feeling is disgust. And from disgust you went to anger. Look at the changes in the facial expression. Fifth one. And from anger you went to happiness again. You're very angry and then you are like, okay, let it go. You're becoming happy. So we started from happiness, we are ending at happiness, but happiness changed into surprise, surprise into fear, fear into sadness, sadness into disgust, disgust into anger, and again anger into happiness. So this is called 6 expressions, how it is changing. Look at the changes in the facial expressions. Take 2 minutes and just go through it. Alright, I hope you found this interesting. So this is about the facial expressions, how it is changing, how it changes, and how it acts as a way of communication. So even when you all of you are sitting, I wish you all were in a live class so you would have seen different expressions. It's fun discussing in a live class. So it just changes. So that's it about facial expression.